Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Michael, and once again, we got a good one for you today. Today, we're actually connecting with the creator of one of my favorite products, Iron Will Bill Vanderheyden. If you haven't used his broadheads before, they are best in class, they are sharp as hell, and they kill an animal quick. So, first off, I want to say thanks to Bill for coming on the podcast. It did take a while for us to get together, but that's because the guy's always in the woods, honing his craft and putting down bears and caribou and all sorts of things. So thank you, Bill. I do appreciate it. For you listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Let's just kick this thing off, man. Let's let Bill tell you some of his stories. Thank you. All right, Bill. Welcome to the Hunting Stories Podcast, brother. How are you?
I'm good, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited that you're here. I don't know actually if you noticed, I'm wearing my Iron Will shirt. I got this at TAC last year. It's one of my favorite shirts, and so I'm excited to talk to Iron Will Bill himself. So thank you for coming on with me today.
Yeah, you told me what you did with just telling hunting stories. I'm like, that sounds great. I'm usually, talking technical things, but I love bow hunting. I live for it, so it's fun to tell hunting stories for sure.
Yeah, well, let's kick this thing off right. Why don't you, Bill, introduce yourself, maybe explain why you talk technical so often and why this will be a nice change of pace for you, and where you started hunting, like kind of your origin story.
Yeah, so I grew up in Wisconsin, hunting whitetails, moved to Colorado 25 years ago. I got an engineering degree also while in Wisconsin. So I'm a mechanical engineer and developed products for other companies for many years. I got obsessed with elk hunting. Had a broadhead fail to penetrate an elk shoulder blade, then I started developing my own broadheads, and now I do archery components, full arrow systems, along with some ultralight hunting knives. But I design, develop products, and then go bow hunting a lot to test them out. So, I love bow hunting, love good mechanical engineering, and kind of combine the two together in my job.
Yeah, that's awesome. I don't think I'm as extreme on either one of those things as you are, but you sold me, and my first broadheads I ever bought were Iron Wills, and it was a YouTube video of, it was like a press just going through a chunk of meat and a shoulder blade. And you showed the pounds of pressure it took for, an arrangement of broadheads to actually penetrate just the meat, just the skin, and then actually get to the shoulder blade. And I was like, wow, that makes sense to me. So what you're doing, it works. I've used your broadheads on several animals, and I've never had anything but a complete pass-through. So they definitely work.
Yeah, as an engineer, I knew that keeping that force to penetrate low is what gives you more distance through it. So it was kind of obvious to me, but it wasn't talked about much in the industry. Getting things really sharp takes more passes of grinding and honing, and it's not that common, but it's really important. So Anyway, that's helped a lot of people try our product and like it for sure.
That's awesome. Okay, Bill. So we're here for a reason, right? We want to hear some of your favorite hunting stories, and I think you get out probably more than most. So why don't you set the stage on your first story? I know you have a couple in mind for us.
Yeah, I was thinking about telling my first bear hunting story, and then if we've got time, maybe my first caribou hunting story. And these aren't, there's other stories I could tell where I look like I'm, a top-notch bow hunter and things went perfect and I got, great big elk, and it's, I'm a hero in it. And these are more like, I didn't really quite know what I was doing. Made a few mistakes here and there, but they're kind of special stories to me. I can remember them very vividly, So my first bear hunt I grew up in Wisconsin, then I moved to Colorado, hunted elk, mule deer, antelope for years, but I didn't hunt bears, and I kind of wasn't sure if I wanted to hunt bears or not. It was rare that I saw them. It was really cool to see them and watch them, and they're just kind of different. They're a predator, and I've got nothing against people that wanted to do it. I just wasn't sure if I wanted to, which it seems kind of silly to me now because I've killed lots of bears and I love bear hunting. I love eating bears at this point. But at the time, it's like I didn't know bears well enough to kill them. It's kind of almost the way I felt about it. But after many years of elk hunting and getting up close and personal to bears a number of times, and I really felt like I was competing with them at times, where I was hunting. I decided, I'm gonna hunt and kill a bear here. So I started just picking up a bear tag when I was elk hunting. So it wasn't necessarily on purpose. It was more going to be an incidental encounter, I think, to kill one. So I get this. Anyway, I'm on an elk hunt. I get an elk. I got just the two of us. It's a backpack hunt with a buddy of mine. We pack out. I guess we got it kind of late. We hung up the quarters in a tree, and actually, he got my buddy got the elk on this one, not me. We hung up a couple of quarters, and we packed out a couple of quarters in the dark all the way down to the truck. Slept there for the night. We hiked in early the next morning to get the second couple of quarters. We just got up to where we had hung these. So this is in the wilderness, a few miles, and we're tired. We sit down, have a sandwich, or snack there, and we're just talking. We're just talking away back and forth, and we look over, and there's this bear coming in. He had smelled the meat hanging behind us and was coming in. And even though I had a bear tag, I was pretty exhausted from that pack out the night before, the hiking that morning. And I'm thinking, man, I don't want to kill a bear right now. Plus, I want to fill my elk tag yet.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, I just stand up and try to scare this bear off. Like, hey, bear, get out of here, bear. And it just starts circling us, in the timber, and it's not really leaving. And it's trying to circle behind where the quarters are. I didn't have a gun, but my buddy had a .44 pistol.
Okay.
And so I said, I've got a bear tag. I think I'm just gonna try and kill this bear here. And it was in the thick stuff back. It wasn't that far, but it was back behind where we hung the quarters, and it was just hanging out back there. So I go try to be super quiet, crawl in there as it's just kind of circling back and forth. And I'm 20 yards away, and I draw, and I'm thinking the bear doesn't know I'm here because it's not looking at me. Well,
yeah.
I go to draw on it, and the bear just turns and looks right at me. It knew it's a boar. It knew I was there the whole time. It starts rubbing its butt on this tree, and then snapping its jaws at me. So that was a new experience for me. It's like hunting something that, for one, knows you're there and it's just not afraid of you. Also, it could mess you up if it wanted to.
Yeah.
I mean, a bear could easily kill a person. A bear that's, I don't know what it weighed, but I think an average adult bear in Colorado is 260 pounds. So they're not huge, but that for sure could, it could mess me up for sure. Yeah, so it turns, it's now snapping its jaws at me loud, and I'm at full draw. I don't really want to take a frontal on this. I didn't have a great shot angle on it, and I whisper to my buddy, I walk in on this little path, and it's kind of thick, and he's standing 10 yards behind me with the pistol, which is pretty worthless, really, from where he's at.
Yeah.
But I whisper you got me covered here, something like that. And so then the bear drops down on all fours, and it goes to circle me, and I'm still at full draw, and it goes through this little opening, and I take the shot. It zips through it. I mean, it looked like a shot, but I take that shot, and that bear took off running. Luckily it didn't run towards me. It just ran in the direction it was facing.
Yeah.
But holy cow, did it run fast. I'd never seen a bear it was like a black streak through the woods. Wow. And I turned around to my buddy, and that's what I say, wow, did you see how fast that thing? So it ran, and then we heard this death moan, within 5 seconds.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So you knew you got it. That's a noise I want to hear really bad.
It's just a streak going by.
Yeah.
And then I would say it was under 5 seconds. Might have been 4 seconds. We hear this death moan, but it's over 100 yards away in 4 seconds.
Wow.
It ran so fast. It was crazy. So I turn to my buddy and say, man, if that thing would have charged me, would you have hit it? He says, not a chance. Not a chance. Right. for one, it was thick, and two, it came so fast. That was crazy. Anyway, it was my adrenaline was way up. That was an exciting experience for me. And really, it got kind of hooked on bear hunting after that. Just the challenge and the kind of elevated level. And I'm not saying I was a super tough guy or anything, but just getting on the ground, getting up to a bear and getting a shot on it. It's just a level of, I don't know if it's danger there or whatever, just something that brings out the predator, the hunter into you to a higher level. Like when that bear was snapping his jaws and then turned, go sideways, it's like my senses were keyed up. I could like see every hair on that bear exactly. I was just watching what he was doing. I'm like worried, is he going to charge me? Am I going to get the shot? But just that level of intensity was something that I hadn't quite experienced with deer and elk. Now I love deer and elk hunting. It's just a little different with a bear, but so I've killed, and that bear was laying dead when we got there. We made it about 100 yards, I'd say. But that experience, I'm kind of hooked on bear hunting now. I think I've shot 7 bears in the last 8 years with some big ones, some big ones in there. But I understand now why people want to hunt bears. I didn't quite understand before. Also, the meat's great. I love the meat. I just shot a bear a few weeks ago in Saskatchewan, and I ate bear I do this when I get an animal now. Is I hate throwing it in my freezer and saying I'll eat it all later. I eat as much as I can that first week. So I ate bear every day, sometimes twice a day for a week. And bear roast.
Let me ask you about cooking bear,
whatever.
Because I do have a question for you there. So it's a predator, right? And it's got, I'm drawing a blank on what it's called, but so you have to cook it well done. Is that accurate? Yeah,
bears are like pigs. They can have trichinosis, I guess. So you want to, cook it well done. So,
okay.
You don't want to have like rare steaks or anything out of a bear. So a lot of times, and I'll cook it on a smoker. I'll cook the loins like long time, low and slow. Or I'll throw it in a crock pot, also cook it low and slow. And it's good. It's like the boar I just shot was adult, an older boar, and the meat's kind of marble. There's some fat on it, and it's more like, it's similar to a beef roast, but anyway, I really like it. If you read like I think the book's Undaunted Courage with Lewis and Clark, they preferred bear meat over deer meat. So
I've heard that.
It really is good. And prior to shooting one, that's part of the reason why I wasn't sure if I wanted to shoot one, because I like to eat what I kill. So I also kind of wasn't sure about that. But at this point, I know that I love bear, and I'll cook a bunch of roast and make it into sausage. And so
that's awesome. Okay,
that's good as well.
Part of the reason I asked is, I don't know, have you ever cooked sous vide? Are you familiar?
I am. Yeah.
Okay, so I've done this with chicken, because chicken, you cook chicken to 165, and the reason you cook chicken to 165 is at 165, everything bad in there that there could be instantly dies, right?
Yeah.
I actually saw a graph that showed that those same things at, say, 135, right, a medium rare temperature for most meats, if you can keep it at 135 for 2 hours, everything will die as well. So those things, it's kind of a hockey stick type graph where you can do lower temperatures if you cook it for a long time at that temperature, which with heat is hard, but with sous vide is doable. So I've cooked chicken to medium rare, which was gross. It tasted fine. The texture was really weird of the chicken. And I was just curious if you had heard about anything like this, because I want to get a predator and I want to cook it sous vide and find out where that 3 hours at this temperature is to maybe get a medium rare bear steak. I'm trying to find someone who's tried that, because I'm sure
I bet you that would be good. I bet you that would be really good on a bear. Because I try not to overcook it, but yet I want to get it to the 160 that you're supposed to. If I'm doing it like as a loin, like on a grill or something, but I bet that would be good in a bear.
I'll have to do my research. Figure out the how long trichinosis at certain temperatures stays active before it dies off, because I think that could be a fun way to cook some of those predators. I've asked the same question to a guy who was big in mountain lion, and he's like, I've never heard of that. That'd be interesting. So I guess it's now my main thing is I need to get a bear so I can figure this out and let everyone know what a medium rare bear steak tastes like.
Yeah, sounds good.
Let
me know if you need one. Let me know if you need any parts sent to you. I can help you out.
Will do. I want to tell you a bear story. I've similar to you, before you were actually into bears, I have bear tags, but it's kind of just complementary to what I'm out there for, which is typically elk. I think it was my second archery season. I had a bear tag, and we were on this hillside glassing the morning before. We had seen a bunch of elk, so we figured we'd try it again this morning. And this particular morning, we're glassing, no elk, but we see this giant black spot on the side of the mountain, about a mile and a half away, and we're looking at it. We're like, "What is that? Is that?" It's not an elk. We realize it's just a really big bear. I mean, it seems big to us, right? So we charge down this valley and then up the other side, and we know exactly the trail that it's on. So we're like, if it maintains on that trail, we can get ahead of it. And your story reminded me of this story because I just remember being on like maybe 5 yards off that trail, being like, he's coming. I know he's coming. I'm going to get him. And I'm standing there with my bow. I don't have a pistol, and all of a sudden he is 10 yards away. And I'm terrified. He's through a bunch of brush, so I never actually laid eyes on him. I could just hear him. I could hear his teeth clacking. I could hear him sniffing, and I'm like, "Oh God, what have I done?" Like I was just like, "This is the dumbest thing. Why am I sitting here with a sharp stick, 10 yards from a bear that I can't see?" He realized I was there, and he booked it. So I got out of there without killing anything or putting anything down. So I still don't have a bear. But this is where the story gets funny: is I walk off out of this little ditch back up onto the game trail. And my buddy's on the other side of this like ravine, and I look at him and he's like, "What's up?" Hands up, like, "Did you see him? Did you find him?" And no joke, 10 yards above him up a really steep incline is a bull elk. And like 90 yards from me. And I'm like, no, like that's what we've been there for days hunting. And I'm like trying to I throw antlers up on my head and I'm trying to point without yelling. I'm like trying to get him to turn around, and he just doesn't get it. And I'm not quite confident enough to throw an arrow right over his head at this elk. But I mean, he is, as the crow flies, he couldn't have been more than 10 yards from this elk. It just was up a steep hill, so he couldn't see it. And somehow that elk completely disappeared. It didn't run off. It just slowly meandered into this point, and then we surrounded that point, and it just never came out. We don't know what happened to it. But your story reminded me of that, and being super close proximity to a bear, it's exhilarating. It's not like anything I've ever done before.
Yeah, for sure. It's a whole new experience, and I can understand why some people love to do it at this point. And I can understand why some people don't want to do it too. But it was a new experience for me, but yeah, I'm hooked on it.
That's cool. Okay. Well, that was a good one. And a little scary, but what else you got? I think you said you had a caribou story for us.
Yeah, I thought I'd tell my first caribou story because it's kind of interesting, I think. I've been caribou hunting 3 times now, or every other year for the last 5 years or so. This is up in the Brooks Range, so I use a flight service to get dropped off in the Brooks Range for 10 days and then picked up later. So it's kind of a do-it-yourself hunt, but you get dropped off, where there's some caribou around. So the first time I went with 2 buddies of mine, one of them was the same guy from the bear hunting story, but he'd never shot more. He was a friend of mine from the Midwest. He'd never shot more than 40 yards. So I really pushed him to sight in his bow and get accurate to at least 60. I just heard that, that open barren ground caribou, it can be tough to get under 40 quite often. So I had done a lot of long range practice and shooting myself. I've got a target at 100 yards that I shoot at every day with broadheads and field points. And I'd practice to 120. And I wasn't planning to shoot that far, but yeah, I wanted to be able to shoot. I've been told by guys that hunt there a lot, man, if you can get very accurate to 60 to 80, it's going to really open up your opportunities. So that's what I was trying to get to that level. Really, I knew nothing about caribou though. We get dropped off and, we can't hunt the first day, but we're watching these caribou running around, and they're an amazing animal if you haven't seen them. They're beautiful. They have these like silver, brown, and white coats. At that time, we went up in August. It was like August 13th, so they have these chocolate brown velvet antlers, and they are just running all over the place. We're trying to figure out what are these things running for, and why. Whether to be one running north, one running south, and they pass right by each other and keep running in their directions. And we're like,
that's weird. I had no idea.
Like nothing's chasing these things. Why are they running? And I feel like it's maybe just a defense mechanism. They feel like they want to be on the move. And these things can move like they almost like float across the tundra. I think they're just built to run, and they're not running super fast. Typically, they're not running super fast. It's just kind of a trot, but they cover miles, and and I think they're just capable of running 50 miles a day type thing. It's just what they do. Anyways, we're trying to kind of figure out what these animals are doing. How do we ambush them or something like that. So that's that evening we're watching them. Next morning, we get up, and it's light at about 2 a.m. there. It's only dark from maybe midnight to 2 a.m. But we just decide we're gonna probably just sleep until 5 or 6 and hunt till 10 p.m. or whatever, so we can get some sleep. So
quick question on that I just thought of. Most hunting, right? You do right in the morning and right in the evening. With such short evenings, is that something you care about at all, or you just hunt whenever because they're always out there and they're not what is the word, crepuscular? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, what I've seen is that often when I've been on these hunts, if you're on a high point, you can see caribou at all times somewhere.
Okay.
Now you might decide it's 3 miles away. I'm never going to get to those caribou, in time, or whatever. But there's been some years where I went on stalk after stalk after stalk from, I'd get up at 5 or 6, hunt till 10 p.m., and I was on stalks all day long. So, you can do it for sure. Now,
okay.
Depending on the weather, they might be tucked in and bedded down. I can't say I've figured them out exactly, but that first trip they had some just kind of bizarre behavior, where most of the time they were just moving, which became a challenge. So anyway, that any more questions on that, or
No. I was just curious. I never thought about animals that you're hunting all day like that, and not just at those peak times, because the evenings are so short. So it's just a question. But go ahead, continue.
Yeah. So we get up, we're having some coffee and breakfast, and we just start glassing around, and get up on a little bit of a high point near camp. We spot this caribou. I'd say it's probably just like 300 or 400 yards away. We saw some others moving, but this one was just standing still. And it was in this little cut or ravine on the side of this hilly kind of hillside, and it looked like a good bull. I mean, wow, it's got some decent tops, decent fronts. Looks like a good bull. It's just standing still. It looks like, is it sleeping? What is it doing? So, and we really know nothing about caribou behavior at that point. But the best I can tell, it was just like sleeping, standing up, like taking a little bit of a rest, but just standing there, not bedded down. Mm-hmm. Which we saw occasionally, on that trip. Sometimes they'll bed when there's bad weather. A lot of times they're bedded. But this particular one was just standing still. And somebody told me that they never see that in October. So maybe it's more of or September. So maybe it's more of a mid-August thing too. I don't know. I know one thing, they're often running. I think they're often having problems with bugs and mosquitoes, and that might make them be running around too, or moving.
That would make me run, so that makes sense.
yeah. And it was a warm trip. We hunted in t-shirts, and I pretty much hunted in t-shirts or a long sleeve t-shirt this whole week. But So anyway, we see this caribou, and we think, man, somebody could come over the ridge behind it and get maybe a 40 to 50 yard shot. So I have my buddy do that doesn't shoot quite as far as I do. Like, hey, why don't you circle up around, come up over that ridge, and you'll have a shot down at it, and it'll probably run out the top of this cut, this ravine. And so I'll get positioned up on top of the ridge where kind of the direction I think it might go, just in case it comes my way, maybe I'll get a shot. So he stalks around there. I see him sneaking up and over. And I mean, to me, it looks like it's a chip shot for him, but it's hard to tell, from my distance, like how far the shot is. But he gets drawn back. takes the shot. Seems like there's no wind, and there's no wind where I'm at. So I figure and I see the shot go. I see the animal like jump up and do like a mule kick. It jumped up, kicked its hind legs, or kind of all of its leg. I don't know. It was kind of a mule kick, which,
okay,
whitetail hunting, that typically meant, man, you hit a heart shot or, through the body cavity anyway. That's typically what it's meant to me. Like, oh yeah, he got it. He hit it. Is what I was thinking. So it does run past me, but it's on the move coming by me. It goes up over the hill the ridge that I'm on. I don't think it really saw me. I was kind of tucked in and went down. I'm just watching because I'm thinking it's going to drop. It goes down and it stops now, and it looks back, and I'm thinking, man, did he miss it or did he not? Is it like a gut shot or is it something where? Anyway, I quick decide I'm going to try to put another arrow in this thing. And I don't remember the distance exactly, but I'm gonna say it was like 75 yards. So it wasn't a close shot, but it was, within my capability on a caribou.
Okay.
So I quick, it's looking my way though. So I draw, I shoot, and at the shot, it just takes off running. Sound of the shot or whatever, because it was keyed up and alert. That's another thing I had no idea. It's like, do caribou jump the string? Are they going to run at the shot, or do they like stand there and take it? I had no real idea on caribou behavior. Yeah. I just took the shot. It looked to me like it ran out of the way and wasn't there when the arrow hit. That was my best guess. But I see this caribou now go down this hill, down in this long open bottom, so I can see for miles. I see it go down in there, go probably 500 yards, and then stop and bed down. So I go quickly to where I had shot. I don't see my arrow anywhere, and it's tundra, so it's hard to find an arrow in tundra.
Just buries itself.
Yeah. But I see a speck of blood. So I see a spot of blood. I'm thinking, I don't think I hit it, but I think my buddy did. So I went back, found my buddy, and said, hey, I don't think I hit it. I think it moved on my shot, but I found blood, so I think you hit it. And he says, no, I didn't hit it. Here's my arrow. And there was mud on the broadhead, so you couldn't really see the broadhead. But his arrow looked clean, like I didn't pass through the cavity. So, like, man, if you didn't hit it, I must have hit it because I haven't found my arrow yet, and I didn't really know. So anyway, I decide I've got to go after this caribou. Now, it's, blood's been drawn. You got to, follow it to the end. Do your best to try and recover this animal was my thought there. So, and I could see it bedded down out there 500 yards or so. So I go down the ridge side into the bottom, and the bottom is wet. It's probably like 6-8 inches of water, and there's all different kinds of terrain up there in the brooks and the tundra, but I could tell you it all sucks to walk through. And this was what I would say is like this was like tussocks on the high stuff. It was, I think it's probably tundra, where it was just kind of spongy and wet. Down in the bottom, it was a bit more like, it's kind of like basketballs with grass growing off of them, with little channels in between where it's hard to see if you're stepping on top or in the bottom, and there may be a foot drop if you're not hitting the top. Really, hard to walk through. But it was a mix of tundra and tussocks, but it was like 6 to 8 inches of water through it all. And then there was, cover that's, a foot or so high, just either brush or grass, little bushes or grass. There's really no brush or trees, at least in this area. But so I'm thinking, man, I got to stay low. So I crawl in the last probably 300 yards through the water to this thing, like, gosh, moving my bow in front of me. And I'm soaked, so my knees, my pants, I'm like army crawling on my elbows. So I'm wet. Luckily, it wasn't that cold, but, and then, I get out to where it's bedded, and I range, decide I'm not close enough. So I move in, I get to about 70 yards or so. Maybe, I think it was actually 60 yards range. I'm like, okay, I can make this shot. but all I could see is like the head and the tops of the shoulder. It was down in enough brush that I'm like, okay, I just got to wait it out. So I got my bow ready to draw, and I'm waiting. And this caribou is kind of looking over my way. I'm just above the cover, but moved a little bit. It's looking my way, and it pops up. I quick try to draw, but I mean, it just popped up and ran. And so what I learned is that, a lot of times like mule deer or something, well, they'll like stand up and stretch and let you shoot at them, give you a few seconds to shoot at least. Caribou, in my experience, don't really do that.
Okay.
They like stand up and go. And it's probably like a defense mechanism. They probably figure like, yeah, I don't want to stand around too long. I want to be on the move in case something's stalking in on me, maybe, whatever.
Yeah.
But so we went up, it popped up and it's gone. So I didn't get a shot. I'm like, dang. Goes a couple hundred more, a few hundred more yards probably. Maybe 500 more. Beds down again. So I do this over again. I'm like bent over walking for quite a ways, and then I get down and crawl in on this thing. Again, I get to 60, 70 yards. I think this time I got to be faster on the shot. So I'm clipped on, like I'm ready to draw. Just waiting. It starts getting up. I draw and I immediately shoot as it, gets to its feet, but it's already moving. And I could see that I missed it. The arrow hit where it was, and it's already, it went under it basically because it was running
run
away
out of arrows at this point, Bill.
Yeah, I started worrying here because I brought like a quiver full of arrows, I think, on this trip of 6. I thought if I can't get done with 6, there's something wrong here. But now I'm starting to worry. I got two arrows gone, or left in the quiver. And so this happens a couple more times to where it beds down, and and I'm not finding a blood either when I get up to where it was. So I'm starting to really question what is going on here. And it doesn't seem to be hurt that bad, but yet I know I found blood back where I started. I was 100% sure that was blood.
And he keeps laying down, right? That's indicative of him being hurt. So
right, and I kind of felt that was probably the case, but now that I've hunted them a few different times, I 100% think that was the case. Like something wasn't quite right for him to be laying down.
Yeah.
And you'll find out later what that was. But anyways.
All right.
So a couple more times of this. Finally, he's like all the way across this bottom. It's 2 miles from where I took the first shot on him. So 2 miles I'd been after this caribou. I'd spent hours now spotting and stalking. He relocates. I spot and stalk again. And I was exhausted from crawling. I probably crawled a mile through tundra as well. But this last time, he starts going up the hill, like up and out of this ravine and, off into the mountains. He beds down one last time. Now he's on the hillside that slopes up, all the way to a mountain ridge, but he's just a little ways up it. But now I can see his whole body. So again, I get close. I crawl into this little berm. And I peek up and over it, and I can see his whole body. I'm glassing him. I range him. He's 98 yards away. I'm trying to figure out how do I get closer. And there's nothing. This berm is like, go over this berm. I'm wide open to his view because it's got a little dip, and then it immediately starts climbing this open hillside. So I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to go straight into him. The ridge behind him was hundreds of yards away, so I can't really come over the ridge and get the shot. So, after 5 minutes of thinking about it, thinking, man, I've been shooting 100 yards every day with broadheads. I know I can hit, 8-inch, 10-inch group consistently.
Yeah.
Caribou's vitals are pretty big. There's zero wind right now.
Yeah, and it's not your first arrow, right? It's not like an unethical shot. You're trying to finish this thing off and be as ethical as possible. So sometimes you can extend the range in those circumstances.
Exactly. I already said, 80 yards is my max range I'm going to shoot, but it's a follow-up shot. This is a wounded animal. And in that case, I do extend it out. I didn't know to what extent it was wounded, but my concern is like it's gut shot and it's going to die. And I could put it out of its misery quickly and salvage all the meat and do the right thing.
Yeah.
Here, hopefully. So anyways, and I thought, all right, I'm just going to draw back. And I'm not going to shoot unless it feels perfect. But I draw back. It's not looking at me, which is good. It actually was looking the other way. I settle the pin. There's like zero wind. The pin feels rock solid. And without even hardly thinking about it, I squeeze it off. It just felt right.
Yeah.
And send that arrow, and I could see it just, I had a lighted knock on it. I could see it the whole way. Drop right in there. A hard shot, 98-yard hard shot.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah, that caribou, it popped up onto its feet, staggered one more step, and dropped. And man, was I excited.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
had to be the most satisfying thing you've ever done after crawling a mile.
it was. I worked so hard to get that caribou, and it didn't all start picture perfect for sure. Some mistakes there, but man, to see that thing drop and be dead, and to go out there and put my hands on my first caribou with that brown chocolatey velvet antlers, just a beautiful animal and so unique. Man, was I excited, and I was so happy. I'd practiced so hard all summer on long shots so I could make that shot. But yeah, it was it didn't go quite as I would have wanted, as I maybe would have planned it. But in the end, it's I felt like it was a great accomplishment. I was super excited to get it and put my hands on it. And so, you want to know where the wounding shot was to start with?
You knew it. You knew where my question was. Where'd that first arrow go?
Yeah, so it wasn't me. It was my buddy that hit it. And he actually just cut the hoof. So it had a little cut on its hoof.
Huh.
So it, wouldn't have died from it for sure. It was like 1 inch deep cut on the edge of the hoof, but it just kind of made it splay. I think it made it splay. It probably didn't feel quite right when it was running.
Yeah.
And so it'd run for 500 yards and lay down. It was, kind of a superficial wound, but it was enough that I found blood, and I was concerned that we wounded this animal, and I've got to stick with it, go after it, and do my best to try and recover this animal.
That's interesting. So you're sure it was his arrow that hit it in the hoof and not yours?
I'm trying to remember all the reasoning I had for what that is, but
yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
It made sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it made sense from when I showed him it. He's like, "Oh yeah, I think I'd hit it in the hoof." Also, it jumped and kicked its hoof when he shot it.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it jumped and kicked out. It did that like a mule kick, and that's the hoof that he hit. And so it made sense. It thought something hit its hoof, and it did this weird kick with it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think that's the reason we decided it was probably his. And I mean, when you shoot lighted knocks, my experience is you got really a pretty good idea of whether you hit the animal or not. I mean, you kind of, that's one reason why I use them more now is prior to that, I might think, oh, I made a great shot. And then you look at a video later or something, and you're like, man, I didn't hit it anywhere close to where I thought I hit. But with that lighted knock, it seems like your eye can see that going through the animal or missing the animal.
Yeah.
I've been, a lot higher percentage of knowing where I hit it or if I missed it with lighted knocks, I'd say.
Yeah, I use lighted knocks now for that same reason. I was in Molokai hunting axis deer, and there's a doe, and I shot it, and I drilled it. Like, I absolutely knew I drilled it because I hit it, and then I go and look for the arrow, and there was not a drop of blood on the entire arrow. It was a complete pass-through. The fletchings, though, were covered in meat. So I was like, okay, I got it. It turns out I hit it a little high, kind of in that pocket, Didn't find it that day because, I'm not kidding, 200 more deer came in, and I kind of just sat there waiting for these deer to pass, and they hung out until 2 hours after dark with me. And the next day we went and actually found the deer. But those lighted knocks are amazing. They're wonderful for helping you track it, and also for helping you just completely know that you missed. Because I did that probably more than I did hitting any deer in Molokai. So
Yeah, I agree. I don't. There's a lot of them I don't like. A lot of them aren't that reliable. A lot of them don't have that good of a structural integrity. But
Interesting.
I actually had some prototypes made that I've been using. But
Cool.
yeah, definitely when you can see it, it just helps you know whether you hit it or not and make the right decision on do I track right away or not. Things like that. I did go back and find my arrow as well, and my arrow was clean. So that was just confirmation that what I thought I saw was probably right on that one.
Oh, that's a great story, though. I think it might be the first caribou story that we've heard on the podcast, but it's amazing that you crawled a mile through 8 inches of water and all that tundra.
I lost my cell phone as well.
Really?
I had my phone in like my side pocket of my pants, and after that hike through there, it was gone. So yeah, the rest of the I was navigating by hills, terrain, topographic features after that for the rest of the week. And, I went after caribou all week just for fun. My buddies, all three of us got 3 bulls with our bows in 5 days. So it was pretty
awesome.
epic hunt. Loved it. But now I'm hooked. I've gone back two more times. I actually scheduled a hunt again this year to go, but then I drew a sheep tag in Colorado, so a bighorn sheep tag. So
Poor you.
I'm gonna put caribou off till next year and hopefully kill my first bighorn sheep.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I got a cow moose tag this year in Colorado, so I'm pretty fired up for the season as well. Yeah.
Great.
Well, Bill, man, those were great stories. I don't know if you have any other ones that popped up while you were chatting that you want to share with us, or we can wrap it up. It's up to you. I'll listen all day.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. I'll save some for next time, maybe.
Perfect, Bill. Perfect. All right. Well, then let's do this. Let's tell them where they can find, if not you on social media, at least your company. Let them know whatever you want to share, and then we'll let you walk off into the sunset.
Yeah, our website is ironwolloutfitters.com. We have an Instagram and Facebook that is at Ironwool Outfitters. We make kind of premium broadheads, components. Arrow, we do full custom arrow builds now too. I make ultralight knives, but I love good engineering and bow hunting, so I try and make products, as reliable as science allows for that bow hunter that's just trying to get better, improve, and doesn't want to accept failure and have his best chance of success. So that's what we're about.
Yeah, and I'll vouch for your broadheads. I've killed 2 animals with the exact same head, and I've also shot that thing into the dirt 3 different times without having to resharpen it, and it's still complete pass-through, razor sharp. So you make a great product, Bill, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks. They are more expensive, 2 to 3 times more expensive than something you're going to get at a local sporting goods store maybe. But if you think about the fact that you can reuse them over and over, and lifetime warranty if you bend or break it shooting out or through an animal, because they'll go through bone and look like new, most of the time. So if we can use them over and over, they kind of pay for themselves over time.
Absolutely. Well, cool, Bill. Well, thank you very much for coming on. I know it took us a little while to get this thing scheduled, but I really do appreciate it, and definitely plan on having you back on again in the future to hear about your bighorn sheep.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Let's talk after season here, see how it goes.
Sounds good, man. Thank you. All right, guys, that's it. Another couple stories in the books. I want to thank again Bill for coming on the podcast. I know he does have a very busy schedule, but those are some great stories. It actually scratched an itch of caribou hunting. That's one of my bucket list hunts that I still have yet to go on. So I actually have been researching some of those hunts since I talked to him. So thank you, Bill. It was a ton of fun to hear all of your stories. Beyond that, guys, make sure you check out Iron Will. If you do shoot a bow and hunt with your bow setup, Iron Will, there's nothing better out there. So make sure you check them out. I'm going to put links to everything in the show notes. Check out their Instagram, Bill's Instagram, their website, all that stuff. It is a little pricey, but like I said, I've killed multiple animals with one broadhead, and I've bounced that broadhead down a road multiple times. Don't ask me why. But thank you, guys. I appreciate you. If you do have any stories, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from some guests. But beyond that, get out there and make some stories of your own. Thank you.